joining us now, Connecticut Democrat Congressman Jim Himes. Congressman, thank you for being here. It seemed like the border deal was getting close in the Senate, and now what would happen to it in the House was another story. But it feels like there's a moment now where Republicans say they really want a border deal. Democrats are realizing that they need a border deal because, politically speaking, it's not so great in a lot of big Democratic cities. Why can't this be the moment that something happens?
Well, a big part of that is Donald Trump, right? And, if you think about the way this tragedy developed, and I'm not giving up just yet, but, I was in the room where the Speaker of the House, all of 2 days, the Speaker said to the National Security Advisor, you must do a border deal in order to unlock Ukraine. The National Security Advisor said, we don't want to do that. The Speaker said it's not happening. So, okay, fine, we'll do a border deal. And as you point out, there's actually a lot of enthusiasm for a border deal. We have not done border or immigration in decades. And okay, we do a hard border immigration deal that unlocks Ukraine. Because of the Republicans binding the two together, we may get neither a border deal nor a Ukraine deal, with all the implications that has for global security. But it is because there are a number of Republicans who realize that the border is their one remaining political issue against Joe Biden, and because Donald Trump can't abide by the notion that somebody other than him might do a big deal.
Can you walk through some of the concessions that Democrats are willing or were willing to make on the border that Republicans are now saying no to?
I mean, without knowing what the deal looks like, it's sort of hard to get into. But I can tell you, because I was in the meeting with the congressional leadership and the chairs and the ranking members of the committees, I heard the president say in that meeting 3 times, I will do a big deal. I want to move on the border. That is him saying, I will expend some capital here. And so classic Washington, right? You'll hopefully come to a deal that doesn't thrill the more aggressive elements of both parties. But this is the way we get things done. If the Republicans walk away from the border deal, again, not only do we not get, because we all recognize how untenable the situation at the border is, but aid to Ukraine is at risk, and that has implications for Vladimir Putin, for President Xi, you name it.
Why is Mitch McConnell suddenly backing away from aid to Ukraine? He was such a big advocate for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he is. I think he's sort of stating the obvious, which is that Donald Trump has a hell of a lot of sway inside, primarily the House Republican caucus. But look at him; they've all, as soon as he won in Iowa and New Hampshire, people who behind closed doors will tell you Donald Trump would be a massive danger to the Republic are saying, he should be our next president. I'm standing behind our nominee. That's the sway he has.
Just to focus a little bit more on immigration, and I'll bring this up. I brought it up earlier, but I'll bring it up again. I was speaking to a black Democrat out of Chicago who said that she's a Democrat, but she's going to vote Republican because she feels frustrated, infuriated, in fact, with the way Democrats, she says, are handling the border and the benefits and the help that migrants are getting, help that she says the black community has been asking for decades and is consistently told there's no money for. So she sees an imbalance there. And I've heard that from others in various cities. Do Democrats, what is the Democratic response to that voter who says she's gone?
Well, I've been in politics for a little while now, and you hear a lot of that on a lot of different issues. We hear it on Israel-Gaza. When people get concerned about a particular issue, they say, this is what I'm going to do in the next election. Now, what's going to happen is that in November, I think it looks like this is going to be the case. We're going to have Donald Trump, with all that he represented for women's reproductive rights and for chaos and attacks on democracy, and Joe Biden. You saw the numbers today, 3.3% economic growth. The contrast, you're not choosing perfection, you're choosing between two people. But is there not a message on immigration? Well, so let's focus on immigration for a second. We want to do a deal. You cannot have uncontrolled migration across the border. That is not acceptable. We see that here in New York City. It is not acceptable. So we need to control the border. And yes, uncontrolled migration does put downward pressure on wages. So I understand why people object to the idea for a whole bunch of reasons. We are there to do the deal. Again, don't take it from me. I heard the president in the cabinet room say, I will do a big deal. If a deal doesn't happen, it will be because of the Republicans in the Senate and the House.
No one's benefiting right now, especially the migrants who are struggling, who are selling candy in the subways because they're not allowed to legally work. They're struggling. There's not shelter for them. They're sleeping outside. It's a bad situation.
All around.
All around. I want to ask you one more question. We have reporting that the CIA director is traveling to Europe this weekend to meet with Israeli and Qatari intermediaries to try to negotiate a extended ceasefire in Gaza in exchange for the rest of the hostages back. What sort of pressure do you think the United States can put on Israel and on the Qataris to get something like this done?
Yeah.
Qataris who have to pressure Hamas, by the way.
Right, exactly. And, I can't speculate too much on how you're going to move Hamas, right? I mean, these are evil, totalitarian people. I do think that most people, and you're seeing this said in the Senate and the House, I think most people realize that the humanitarian situation in Gaza today, the tens of thousands of civilian casualties, the deteriorating humanitarian situation is not tenable. It's not tenable for the people that are there. It's not tenable for the long-term security of Israel. I think the Prime Minister saying things like we will never abide by a two-state solution makes the situation worse, not better. And I hope that Bill Burns, who is the consummate diplomat, will deliver that message.
Can I lean on you because you're on the Intelligence Committee? Are things getting worse or better in the Red Sea?
They're getting worse. I am very glad that the White House finally put its foot down and said we will not tolerate attacks on international shipping. But the Houthis are not done yet. And remember, the Houthis are empowered by taking fire from Americans. This elevates their status. So there was never going to be a military attack that was going to end their capability to attack shipping in the Red Sea. Over time, it will. Over time, we hope that groups like the Qataris and others, and the Iranians in particular, say, hey, the Chinese are being hurt, global shipping is being hurt, stop it, and that we de-escalate.
All right, Congressman Jim Himes, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much. Always good to see you. Thanks for coming in to see us today. We appreciate it.